was like old time.
What a loss. She was one of Hollywood's top actresses, an Oscar winner, beloved for her kindness and quirkiness, as well as her talent.
I just want to bring you some sad breaking news now, and that is that the actress Diane Keaton has died at the age of 79.
Oscar-winning actress Diane Keaton is selling her house in Tucson's historic Barrio Viejo. Keaton is set to make a pretty good chunk of change here on the late 19th century adobe structure.
Diane passed away, but it wasn't just the loss that had her family breaking down. The real shock came when a huge fortune suddenly shifted hands right under everyone's nose. The house she once swore she'd keep forever was sold in a quiet, last-minute move that nobody expected. Her relatives were hit with a truth they never heard from her directly, a truth that left the whole family shaken. Diane didn't just leave behind money, she left behind questions, tension, and a trail of decisions that felt way too calculated to ignore. Everything kicked off when her legendary Brentwood home got transferred to Dexter just 3 days before she passed. And this wasn't some simple signature moment. It was a smooth, layered series of asset moves happening almost all at once at different addresses, like she planned it with expert-level precision. Her portfolio was stacked. LA real estate, her Laguna Beach spot, and steady profits from movies that still bring in cash. Altogether, it's estimated at over $100 million, most of it from properties, something Diane once called her second love after acting. In her last months, she quietly sold off smaller assets and funneled the money straight into a private trust that only Dexter and Duke could touch. And the gag wasn't the amount. It was how Diane stayed in full control of everything until her final breath, almost like she was managing a business deal, not a goodbye. Internal documents revealed she never made a public will, but she signed multiple powers of attorney, each covering different pieces of her empire. Some assets went straight to her daughter, while the rest were locked into the trust with chilling precision. A close source said she liked things perfect and orderly, and honestly, the paperwork looked almost icy in how exact it was. Nothing was forgotten, nothing was up for debate. Diane left no wiggle room for anyone. Her 2 adult children, Dexter and Duke, became the center of attention overnight, receiving all direct inheritance, including movie earnings, book royalties, and properties. They kept things quiet, but insiders claimed Dexter wasted no time. She re-registered the Brentwood home in her name the same week her mother passed. This move made a lot of people think Diane planned her whole exit like a script down to the tiniest detail. She once said in an interview, "I don't like to talk about death. I just like to arrange everything to run smoothly." Now that line hits like a warning shot. The quiet legal process didn't feel random. It felt like a choice she locked in to keep everything under control. An old friend once said she believed the real treasure wasn't money, but the neat way you leave. And that energy showed because her sisters Robin and Dory weren't listed anywhere in the estate documents, which sparked quiet conversations behind closed doors. Even so, nobody argued or caused noise. They kept things calm, exactly how Diane lived. Paperwork showed Diane had supported them for years, so their names missing at the end might have been something they'd agreed on way before. Her precision showed in every corner. Property numbers, royalty splits, even the timing of the transfers right before she passed. It was like she wrote the whole thing like a movie scene with no room for luck or last-minute changes. When the documents dropped, Dexter and Duke signed without altering a single thing. "Mom had it all figured out," a family member said sharply. But while the inheritance was being sorted, whispers about a brother named Randy resurfaced, a family tie that never snapped but had been tucked away for years. In her later life, Diane barely brought up her biological family. She focused on her children and her career, dodging any talk about Randy, the part of her past that carried the deepest pain. After she passed, the family dug back into a story they thought had faded. A brother who lived on the edges, carrying a weight he couldn't shake. Randy, whose real name was John Randolph Hall, was expected to follow his father into engineering. But he chased art instead and slowly slipped into a mental disorder that changed everything. He spent most of his life in care homes, and Diane covered every bill, even if she rarely showed up to visit. She once wrote, "I love you, but I chose work over being with you." That line hits heavy like a truth she carried for decades. There was still a unique bond between them. Randy created collages using old family photos, twisting familiar faces, their mom, their sisters, even Diane, into haunting shapes that looked like memories breaking apart. Diane once said he used art to talk about the pain she tried to forget. And even though she stayed quiet publicly, her private records showed she funded his care through her own personal account for years. That silence became part of how people saw her, strong, private, and distant from personal tragedy. After she died, the asset inventory revealed decades of expenses tied to Randy, showing her love didn't fade even if she kept her distance. A longtime colleague said she was always worried about her brother. Everything was planned month by month, like she feared the day she wouldn't be here anymore. That exposed a side of Diane that didn't match her public image, a sister carrying guilt, love, and responsibility all at once. Randy's connection with the rest of the family was complicated too. Robin and Dory still checked on him sometimes, but every major decision about his care landed on Diane's shoulders, like she insisted on carrying it alone. In a rare moment of honesty about her brother, Diane once admitted, "I don't think I was ever a good sister. I was busy, selfish, and scared to face his sadness." That confession hit the public hard and showed a raw side of a woman the world saw as a Hollywood confidence icon. When Diane passed, Randy was still in a California care facility, far from the spotlight but never forgotten. Staff at the foundation confirmed his support payments were still arriving on time even after her death. That showed Diane had set everything up in advance so her brother wouldn't feel the shock of the family's financial shakeups. None of this was made public, but the paperwork inside her foundation made it clear she planned these moves with her usual precision. She didn't leave a written message for Randy, but there was a sealed envelope among her belongings with his name on it. Inside were childhood photos and a simple handwritten note. "You were the first person to teach me to love and the last person to make me afraid of losing." Nobody knows when she wrote those lines, but people close to her believe this was her only real goodbye to him. Their bond showed another side of power and loneliness. Diane could manage millions, but she couldn't fix a fractured relationship that shaped her whole life. Relatives said Randy was the only one who could make Diane go quiet. Whenever someone mentioned him, she'd just ask, "Is he okay?" before changing the subject, like the past still pressed on her heart. Even with the cracks in the family, the love didn't disappear. It lived on in the foundation named after the brother the world barely knew. And when the family drama calmed down, talk shifted back to the thing Diane obsessed over the most, her houses. Real estate was her empire, the world where she poured her passion, her money, and her energy for over 3 decades. Diane wasn't just buying and selling, she was hands-on with every renovation, picking materials, sketching ideas, and building homes with a style only she could create. Experts said her aesthetic sense boosted every property's value, especially the Brentwood house, the one she worked on the most and transferred before she passed. She bought it in 2009, redesigned the whole interior in a modern classic vibe, and even used Pinterest for inspiration before turning the journey into a published book. Her book, The House That Pinterest Built, earned high praise and turned the home into a legend featured in top interior magazines. When it finally went on the market in early 2025, it was valued between $28 and $30 million. A shock to everyone because Diane had always sworn she'd never part with it. Someone close to the sale said everything was handled quietly and wrapped in just a few weeks, making it one of her final major moves. The timing of the listing matched the period when her health started declining fast, which made the sudden sale even more mysterious. Beyond Brentwood, Diane owned multiple homes in places like Laguna Beach, Pacific Palisades, and Tucson, all bought for millions, renovated under her watch, and flipped for 2 or 3 times the original price. She once said during a chat with friends, "I see home renovation as a way to heal myself," and every property showed that energy. At the time she passed, at least 3 homes were still in limbo. The Tucson property was frozen because of unfinished tax paperwork, and the Laguna Beach home was being revalued after years of sitting empty. All of them are now under temporary asset freeze while the estate figures out where they'll go next. Beyond the dollar value, Diane's properties held emotional weight too. Relatives said that across the houses were pieces of her life, paintings, books, special collectibles, all reminders of a woman who built spaces as carefully as she built her legacy. Diane kept notes on every tiny detail in her houses. Paint shades, wood floors, sketches, receipts, all stacked in organized files like a personal blueprint empire. Now Dexter holds the master key to everything, but she hasn't revealed what she's planning, keeping everyone guessing. Some insiders claim she might turn the Brentwood home into a memorial or a private museum. Duke, on the other hand, is eyeing one property as a space for his photography work, adding his own twist to the legacy. Financial experts say the remaining real estate under Diane's name sits at around $40 million, making it her second largest asset. Even though no final choices have been announced, people close to the family say keeping Diane's design style untouched is a big priority. But while Diane was a perfectionist with her properties, her personal life was full of unpredictable switches and bold choices. Her love life, her thoughts on marriage, and her path to motherhood all shine brighter when you look at how she chose to live solo for good. Diane never married, even though she dated major entertainment legends like Woody Allen, Al Pacino, and Warren Beatty, but never locked into anything long-term. Her answer was always the same: marriage wasn't for her. She told interviewers many times that she didn't believe in the idea of staying with one person forever, and she definitely didn't want to share her whole private world with someone else. In her memoir, she explained that her resistance started in her teens, after a boyfriend told her she'd make a great wife, and it made her feel trapped. She said, "I want to live my life, not be a supporting character in someone else's life." And that belief shaped her whole future. That mindset also influenced how she built her family. Adopting children at 50 became one of her biggest turning points. Dexter came into the family in 1996, Duke in 2001, and she kept everything low-key with no press, no premieres, no staged photos. Diane raised them privately, without a full-time nanny, without red carpet moments, and without selling a single story to magazines. She once said, "I was never sure I was prepared enough to be a mother, but I thought if I didn't do it, I might regret it later," showing how deeply the choice mattered to her. Life as a single mother changed her rhythm completely. She stopped attending major events, cut down her acting roles, and spent most of her time at home with her kids. Relatives said she would even wake up early to cook breakfast and drive them to school. Quiet routines she never bragged about publicly. People close to her knew she took motherhood seriously, especially after surviving a long struggle with an eating disorder through her 30s and 40s. She called that time a period of living out of normality, when she was trapped by looks and judgment. After years of therapy, she finally stepped out of that mindset. Diane said that becoming a mother helped her see herself differently. She stopped chasing impossible perfection and learned to breathe again. In her later years, she stepped back from the spotlight completely, rejecting movie roles, skipping talk shows, and avoiding interviews with a firm no. Her final public appearance was in August 2024 at a small charity event in California. After that, she went home and quietly shut the world out, choosing to live independently, not just as a lifestyle, but as her way of protecting her peace. She didn't let strangers into her circle, didn't share her plans, and kept the media far from her door. People on the outside thought Diane must have been lonely, but those close to her knew she simply liked having full control over everything in her world. Dexter and Duke both said their mother stayed secretive, even with them, and they didn't learn about her serious health issues until she pulled away from her daily routines completely. Neither of them spoke publicly after her passing, and they refused every interview about her private life, keeping the same boundaries Diane lived by. But while her personal world stayed locked tight, the value of her work, the copyrights, the reputation, the unseen art, suddenly became the center of attention after she was gone. Her films, books, and even her unpublished photos are now being processed to determine the true worth of her estate. Diane's legacy wasn't just houses or money. She left behind a massive catalog of film rights, book rights, photography, and creative ownership that's being revalued by legal and financial teams right now. One insider shared that her film rights are the crown jewels of the whole portfolio. Movies like Annie Hall, The Godfather, Marvin's Room, The First Wives Club, and Book Club still bring in steady cash from global distribution, streaming deals, and TV licenses. Old contracts are still active, meaning royalties roll in every quarter, and now her children are officially handling those renegotiations. Her books have also seen a spike in reprints since her passing. Then, again, Brother and Sister and The House That Pinterest Built returned to shelves as publishers rushed to meet the huge interest sparked by the news of her death. These titles are now selling not only in the US but in multiple languages, with each reprint adding more value to the estate. Beyond her films and books, Diane owned thousands of unseen photos, family shots, everyday captures, artistic pieces, all carefully sorted by theme, date, and location. She saved everything with a meticulous system that feels even more powerful now. Most of these images are stored in a private Brentwood archive, where Dexter is organizing and preparing them for digitization. Duke, the youngest, is taking charge of the photography side. He studied photography, worked in galleries, and had always been encouraged by Diane to chase his creative lane. Right after her passing, he teamed up with archivists to explore turning parts of her photo collection into a permanent exhibit meant to honor Diane without putting her memory on display like a spectacle. Dexter, the oldest, oversees all publishing and commercial decisions connected to Diane's creative property. She has already signed off on multiple reprint deals, keeping total control within the family. All business moves are made under the family's authority, without outside voices influencing decisions, which keeps everything clean and avoids the legal chaos that usually hits when a celebrity passes away. Some industry experts believe Diane's unseen creative legacy could climb past $20 million in the coming years if handled right. But Dexter and Duke aren't rushing to cash out, not even close. A family acquaintance said they don't view their mother's work as a money machine, but as something that deserves real protection and respect. Diane didn't just leave behind a massive fortune, she left a living legacy built on bold choices, discipline, and quiet corners the world never fully saw. Every house she shaped, every book she wrote, every film she carried, and every moment she chose silence over spotlight tells a story louder than any speech. If this story made you see life, family, or your own choices in a new way, make sure you like the video, share it with your people, and subscribe to RumorFame so you never miss another deep dive. And drop a comment below. Tell us what you think about Diane's legacy, because we'd love to hear your take. See you on the next one.